It's hard to miss the signs of change around Dudley Square in Roxbury. The new municipal center on the Ferdinand block has become a solid presence with opening planned for next year. And work's already begun for other projects, including the development of a new food store near Melnia Cass Boulevard. One result of what's happened so far is the interest in commercial space on the Ferdinand block, with some very familiar brand names looking to rent. But there's also a campaign to make sure the development has a community flavor, with the inclusion of two neighborhood institutions, Discover Roxbury and the Haley House Bakery Cafe. To tell us about the idea is our guest from Discover Roxbury, the Executive Director, Derek Lumpkins. Thank you very much for being with us, Derek.
Thank you.
First of all, for people, even some people in Roxbury, talk about what your organization does and what the Haley House Bakery Cafe does, because there's more to this than just a bakery and a cafe.
Absolutely. So Discover Roxbury promotes civic engagement and economic development in Roxbury, and we do this through a few different ways. So we help provide some trainings for local artists. We also provide trainings for the public. We organize different art events so that the artists can sell and showcase their work. We also help organize different events around the community. So we organize the Wake Up the Earth Parade, which has a leg coming out of Roxbury in Eccleston Square, and also we help organize Roxbury Open Studios. So we do quite a few things that really get people involved and engaged and feeling really attached to the neighborhood and really contributing to the lifeblood of the neighborhood. Haley House Bakery Cafe, in addition to having their baked goods and their lunches and their delicious dinners, they also have several events as well, which really bring people into the community. So they host some of our speaker series, so that again highlights some of the history and some of the vitality of the neighborhood. They have their dinner and a movie series, which is quarterly, and which they do in partnership with the Color Film Collaborative. And they also have their trainings for people who are recently released from prison. And so they give them trainings on how to become and how to rejoin society and gain the skills to work in a bakery or to work in the food service industry.
Another way of looking at this, this is something that Bing Broderick over at Haley House has suggested, is that if you have people, not just in the neighborhood, but even people visiting, you know, like when the Urban League had a convention, they come into town, you want to show them a good time, you want to take them someplace nice, and here it is in Roxbury, it's like you're fixing up your house, you want to invite the guests, and you don't want them to feel like they're in Harvard Square either.
Exactly, and actually the Urban League is a great example. So when the Urban League was here about a year or two ago, we actually did have a booth down at the convention center where we talked to the members of the Urban League, and a lot of their visitors would say, you know, where can we go to get this type of food? Where can we go to hear about the history of African Americans in Boston? Just where can we get things that are representative of the flavor that they were looking for? And we would always say, oh, go to Roxbury, but they didn't know how to get there, so we were there to give them directions. In some cases, we took them there. We had events that were set up for them. So we did a lot of things that would really appeal to a different demographic than what you would see at a place that's full of chain stores.
No, of course, the other thing that goes on is how the activities that Discover Roxbury is involved in actually attract what are, for other people, customers. In fact, they're your customers too, I guess. Right. The arts events, I know you provide a platform for artists that they might not otherwise have, but how does that ripple out as far as the surrounding locations there?
So one example is the Art Rocks hub that we had at 2201 Washington Street. So while we were there for about 2 months this past winter, and we had artists there, we had a fashion show, we had some workshops, different trainings there. So of course it brought people in, but then they're also looking for places to go grab a bite to eat, to grab a drink. They're looking for just different things to do in and around the square. And so because we're there, we have that presence, and we're meeting some of the other merchants. We're going to some of the other shops. We give the visitors a chance to explore other stores and other businesses in the area. But also because we're there, and we also have to buy supplies as well, we go to some of the other stores and we buy our supplies there too. So it ripples out in a couple of different ways. But
you know, you're already there, at least in the areas around Dudley Square. Haley House is fairly close. So what's the difference? Why is it so important to be right on the Ferdinand block?
So this gives us a different level of visibility. It gives us a much greater sense of synergy. So Haley House and Discover Roxbury do have some partnerships, which we do on an occasional basis. This would give us a chance to do something on a much more permanent basis. It would be central to the rebirth and the vitality of Dudley Square. They would have their food programs. They would continue doing their trainings. They would have a different menu. So their menu now at their current location would be different from their menu at the Ferdinand building. as well as what we're doing, we would still be doing our work around the neighborhood, but we'd be able to be much more focused on some of the core things we can do with some of the artists, with some of the incubator ideas that we have for young entrepreneurs. We'd be able to bridge some of the gaps between education and arts that we see existing now, so that there would just be a different flavor and a different quality to what we'd be doing together.
I mean, the gap between education and the arts, this is where the school department is going to have its headquarters.
Exactly, they'll be right upstairs.
Right. I guess another thing you have to think about here is the mission of this development, because when the city embarks on a development, they have to have these goals. One of them certainly is to bring in some revenue from the commercial space to pay for the bills here. But on the other hand, what else are we looking at as far as mission?
For the building?
Yes.
Well, I think the BRA is probably the better entity to answer for that. But I
you
feel
have
that
you have to know what they have in mind too.
Right.
To make your case for them.
So they definitely want to have some retail there to bring people in and have them there from morning through the night. They don't want the building just to sort of close at 5 o'clock and for the neighborhood just to peter out. So again, with Haley House being there to have their dinners, with us there for our workshops, for the different shows that we do, for the exhibitions, for the trainings. I'm working with a theater group that wants to do performances. There's a lot of different ways in which we can keep the building alive and lively from morning to late at night. Plus, we're also proposing to have a community conference room for people to come in. If they want to have small groups to gather in the conference room, we'd make sure that that's available for folks there. And our space also includes a work bar, so that young entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs of any age can come in with their laptops, do some work, they get to meet each other, they get to really share ideas and exchange ideas. So it would be a different quality in terms of what's available for the community as a whole.
Another question here, and this is about people who probably do, for the most part, live in Roxbury. If you have some economic development, well, there are some things you can get now by driving over to the South Bay Mall, and people might prefer to do that still. But on the other hand, how does this enhance the attraction of this square to bring people from the neighborhood there, to get something that maybe they can't get somewhere else?
Well, I think that we've shown that in terms of what we did at the Art Rocks Hub. We had a lot of different things that people just couldn't get anywhere. People in Dudley and in Roxbury are hungry for new things that aren't mass produced. That's one thing that we've heard time and time again. They go to when they go out to the South Bay Mall, they go to other places where they go shopping. Everything is mass produced, or it's produced in another country, and we're proposing to really elevate people who are in the community or from around the community and give them a chance to express themselves artistically and also to sell their work, which is locally sourced, which is not mass produced, it's one of a kind. So it's economic development not just for the square, but also for the people who live in and around the square who are producing their items as well.
And they want to feel it's a neighborhood center, not just an interchangeable set of commercial spaces.
Right. I don't feel that anybody is looking to have Downtown Crossing get moved to Dudley Square. I mean, you can go to Downtown Crossing. We see what's happened to Downtown Crossing in terms of how the chains and how that became a big mall. It wasn't very successful. A lot of that energy sort of petered out, and they're redoing Downtown Crossing. I feel that here in Dudley Square we have a much better opportunity to take what's local, really focus on that, and really infuse it into the DNA of Dudley Square and really make that come alive.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
From Discover Roxbury, Derek Lumpkins.